Okay guys, in today's video, I'm actually going to go over and cover basically, should you use more than one PPC account to do PPC for your business and in your market. With this video, I'm primarily talking about Google ads here specifically. Now, the same thing that I'm going to talk about, or the same things I'm going to talk about here, could be applied to, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, doesn't really matter. But for the most part, most people are only going to care about what I'm talking about here, or the question comes up, should I use more than one account, if they're talking about Google ads, of course, or Bing ads, since they both are, search advertising specifically, since they're inherently the same. And the reason why you would want to use more than one account is for the same reasons, because they basically run the same way. And so what I'm going to do is explain to you, there is times, even though I'm going to throw the general disclaimer out that you're on your own in terms of whether or not you get banned or whatnot, but there's times where I've seen people do better with two accounts, even though technically they might not be supposed to. Whereas also, though, there is times where you can use two accounts and it would be legal. I'm also going to talk about that. But times where two accounts would work better, times when one account would work better. Normally, do you want to use one or two accounts? What kind of results you're talking about using one versus two accounts? All that stuff is going to be talked about in this video. So anyway, and I've actually got the opportunity to see a lot of different situations like this, because I run a PPC management firm here that guarantees results for our clients. And a lot of times people have more than one PPC account for a couple, 3, 4 different reasons. When I initially start working with them and they say, hey, Corey, I want you to increase the number of leads that we're getting or sales that we're getting. And I got to figure out and assess what we're going to do. Are we going to consolidate these accounts down? Because I can't force somebody not to use more than one account, even though that might not be in their particular case. Again, and not in every case it's illegal according to Google's terms. Where it is illegal to Google's terms, I still only can advise them what to do. It's still on them to decide what they're going to do or not. So, but I got to see different people having it set up different ways, and then the results that you get with various different combinations there. One versus two accounts, and with those two accounts with different ways that it was set up, and have distilled down and derived my own kind of thoughts from the whole thing, since a lot of people are going to ask this question. Either you're running one account now and you're thinking about running two accounts because you think, oh well, my ads work better. What would happen if I had a second ad show up on Google? Would that actually help? And they want to know before they do it. And I'm going to tell you all the risk and the ramifications and options and potential returns there what you would have. And then there's other people who have ran more than one account, right, and are running more than one account right now, and they're not sure, is it a risk? Most people that have already done it, they're not thinking that for sure, but some are. And then, am I basically getting the most for my money here? Am I better off running the one account? And if I run two accounts, how should I run it, basically? So which would be another thing that you would think about and evaluate and consider if you're running two accounts. So anyway, with all that said, I'm not going to delay any further. I'm going to talk you through all the options for running one versus two accounts available to you, what kind of results you can see from the different configurations, and how to stay out of hot water with Google if you're actually going to do it, what Google technically allows for and doesn't allow for. So you can ultimately just make your own decision whether or not you're going to run one or two accounts for your business, or continuing to use two versus one at the same token. So anyway, as I usually have on my videos, I have a short list of things here I'm going to cover. They're going to walk you through step by step of how to actually evaluate this for yourself and come out the other side of this video knowing if you want to use, should or can you even use more than one PPC account for your Google Ads campaign or PPC campaigns that you're running on a different platform, what the pros and cons of it actually will be. So the first thing I'm going to mention here, is this actually even possible / legal to do? So, as is all things in business, the first thing we got to ask ourselves is even if it's a small chances, the risk of getting sued or getting my stuff shut down is a real possibility, given that, everything's a risk reward. And, there's a whole fake it till you make it thing out there with business. I get that. So I'm not here to cast judgment on anybody, but I'm just going to let you know what are the potential risks. Again, I can't make the decision for you, but you should know I'm going to help you evaluate the risk and decisions you're making here on your own. So is it possible to do? Yes, and there's a legal and kind of illegal way as far as Google's terms of service to do that. For the most part, it's not in the rules that Google has, specifically because they have a thing called double serving, which would basically be if you had two PPC accounts targeting the same exact keywords, and for the purposes of saturating the market, of having more ad space in the market versus having, what they want you to do is just have one ad available so that there's able to be other competitors in the market. Otherwise, people would take it to the extreme. Well, I have two accounts, it's making money. Why do I run 10? To the point where, specifically because it's bad for the consumer. If the consumer doesn't know they have all these options there. If the consumer doesn't know all these of the same company, well, they don't have freedom of choice. And capitalism is about, you get value through people competing against each other. So if you're going to soak all your competitors by not letting them compete with you, well, that's bad. You should have to win on your own merit by being the better option, not just by blocking people out of the way. And that's what somebody who has the wrong mindset, we'll just put it that way, in terms of when it comes to business and marketing. And on the legal side, like when we're talking about legal stipulations here, laws, that's actually also a gray area, I'll just say as the very least here, an anti-competitive business practice. So there's other things other than just Google's terms of service you have to think about specifically as it comes to what I just said. Technically, according to securities laws, you're not supposed to, there's certain things you can't do. Blocking or hindering the competition from being able to there being a competitive marketplace, that's not something you're supposed to be able to do. And as much as you don't think running more than one ad account is going to change the market that much, technically that could be perceived as an anti-competitive business practice. We're not going to spend too much time on that because obviously if you're considering this, I'm just going to flat out say you probably don't give a crap about that. So we'll just move on from that. But so yes, it is possible to do it. Probably not. It is legally possible to do it, but not in the way that you probably think, in terms of being totally safe and risk is worth the reward, that type of thing there. So anyway, moving on. The golden question, number 2 here. Do people use more than one PPC account and actually get, which we all care about from this at the end of the day. We don't give a crap. I'm assuming everybody here just wants the results. Are you going to get more results running more than one PPC account for your brand? The answer to that is not really, actually, and here is why. So Google, as maybe you know, maybe you don't know, it's run off of it's an auction-based system. There's no flat price for what you're supposed to be paying for having your ad on Google, on a Google search. You're paying, really, at its core, you're competing against other people who want the same ad space. And obviously there's more than one ads that can be shown on Google search, but there's a lot of times people don't realize that there's like 20 people in their space. Google's rotating out those ads, and whoever pays the most, if we don't consider things like quality score that evaluates how good you're serving your, setting up your ads and serving, your users, the more you pay, the more higher up you go, or more likely you're going to get shown at 100, close to 100% of the time versus just part of the time there. And with that, there can only be one quote-unquote best ad. So you're trying to say, it just doesn't really make sense if you think about it at the end of the day. I have an ad there, okay, it works. I'm going to have another ad. I'm just going to do the same thing as the other ad. Well, if you do the same thing as the other ad, doesn't that make the initial ad, whatever it had on it, and that gave it its edge in terms of, because click-through rate on your ad affects how much you're paying per click. Now suddenly your existing ad doesn't have quite the click-through rate it would have had if there's two ads mirroring each other. The very least, it drowns out the ad, so everything blends in together, which affects your click-through rate. And at the worst, now you're just splitting. You're getting half of what you normally would have got on your ad anyway for whatever it was there that gave you its edge and it made it unique and served the user. And now half are going to your other site. So what have you done? You've actually just increased your cost because you have two websites now to maintain. And obviously what people do is they create two websites and they try to make it look like both of those websites are not them to fool Google. But then they're fooling themselves because ultimately now they have two sites to manage. And ultimately they got the same amount of customers. And ultimately they've actually paid more because each ad now doesn't work as well as it did before because it doesn't have as high a click-through rate as the old ad did, which then allows you to have to pay more per click for each one of those clicks. Ultimately, you're getting the same clicks. The same clicks are costing more. So you got the added burden and expense of managing two separate sites and all that stuff. So unless you're going to do something a little bit more sophisticated than just try to do what I told you there, which you're just going to, we'll just do the same thing we're doing now and then, we'll get double. No, it's not. If it's all you do, I can tell you right off the bat, that's not going to make you more money. It's not me being arrogant here. I've seen kind of the differences in the results doing that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But towards the end of the video. On top of all this, you're getting into a legal gray area, like I said before, doing just what I had described there, because you are, again, you're pushing out other competition from the finite space in which where the market exists there. On Google and making it so that there's less competition. And this is actually, I'll tell you about a story. Back about 2006, I heard a story from somebody who had a pressure washing business. This is when I lived up near Seattle for a while there. And the guy thought he was smart because he would go, and it's that whole, on the yellow pages, to be first, you had to be first in the alphabet. So there'd be like A1 and then AA1 and then AA1. So they would be at the top. And that was smart because the ones that are towards the top gets the most calls. But the pressure washing guy realized, what if I just buy a second listing and created a second site? And what do you know? It actually did get more calls because now he could be 1 and 2 instead of just 1. Because the inherent cost for that listing remains the same whether or not, just regardless of the situation. So then once the second one worked, he would do like 1, 2, 3. He would set up so basically half or more of the listings there were his. And then he made out like a bandit. It's a ton of stuff to manage, multiple phone lines, all that other stuff. Technically, Yellow Pages didn't allow it, but they don't police it like Google has the capability to police it. But that right there in itself is an anti-competitive business practice. You cannot do that legally according to securities law. So you could look up this stuff yourself, but it's the same thing with Google there. You're getting into a legal gray area. Now there's ways that it would be legitimate. Technically, if you had let's say, okay, going into our next thing, if you were acquiring the competition's business with a PPC account that they already own, what would you do? So let's say you bought a business that is in your market, and now that person had a PPC account that's two separate entities. So technically, you should be able to run PPC accounts for each of them. You shouldn't, just because you own both entities, not be able to run both PPC accounts. So technically, if you're going to do this, to not be in that gray area anymore, you want a separate corporation, you want a separate, completely safe, a separate operation, everything separate. At that point in time, you're not in that gray area anymore, but it's obviously more hassle, so a lot of people will just say, oh, well, whatever, I'm not doing it now. But that would be the way that you would do that. And however, so with that though, if you're in that situation, given what I told you already, would you you acquired the other business, they have a PPC account, would you keep a hold of that other PPC account, or would you merge your PPC accounts? Now, if you're doing basically the same things as the other guy and there's really nothing to distinguish between the two, I would just say automatically you want to merge them. What you would do specifically to have the best outcome that I found that you can get possible by merging two accounts into one, you would rebuild the account with the newest account the right way. So my existing PPC account was 5 years old. I bought this business. Their PPC account was 2 years old. I would rebuild the 2-year-old account and pull out all the stops. If you want something that's going to be absolutely better than your competition, for sure, you could hire our firm and I'll build it for you. And then you're going to run that new campaign once it's rebuilt for 6 months until that has for sure higher click-through rates, lower cost per conversion, or ROI, whatever it is that you're looking for. And then I would shut down the old account. That in itself is going to get you a higher return than keeping them both going. If you actually do spend the amount of time to set it up, not just an adequate way, but a way that is going to go way beyond anybody else is going to be willing to do in your space. And I'm talking a couple hundred hours of rebuilding keywords for every ad in your account and having custom landing pages for every keyword and all that stuff I talk about in other videos. But that right there is going to get you a better ROI overall than keeping the both campaigns going. Now, there's a caveat to this. You could make the offers different, or if you have different offers, what you could do, and I've seen this work better. So here's the exception to the rule where you would have to have, you could make two different accounts work better. If you acquired that business and that business caters to the lower end of the market and you're in the little bit higher end of the market, I would keep both of the accounts and I would make sure my ads specifically differentiated itself. One ad, if it sells to the quote-unquote cheap people in your market, put the price right in the ad, because usually if they're the cheapest, you don't want to hide it, that fact. We are the cheapest, or $99 is the fee. When normally other people are charging around $300, you're $99. You want that right in the ad. And then let's say, so you have your old PPC account where you're not the cheapest, and then so that you can run that, and that ad potentially you could make a new ad that would said most respected in the industry. So the person inherently who wants not the cheapest, wants the best, will click on that ad. The person that just wants the cheapest will click on that ad. And a lot of people don't realize it, but there's just two different sections of your market in most markets. One that they don't value what you're doing. You don't fight against them, just give them what they want. And the ones that don't want the cheap, give them what they want. Run both campaigns. That can produce more profit for you than one account could do on its own. And of course, again, it has to be separate entities and all that for it to be not legal gray area. Two different actual businesses. So one offer offers something more cheaper, one offers it's something more expensive. And obviously if you have two different PPC accounts and what those two businesses do are two totally different things, the two PPC accounts, assuming that there's different, one section of the market that kind of skews to the one in the one and one section of the market that kind of skews to one in the other, then you would want to run two PPC accounts, if that makes sense. Now, so with that said, assuming that you didn't pull out all the stops and rebuilt one of the new account, like I told you, the right way, and then eventually transition to that new account, two half approach accounts that you may be running now may be better than one, assuming both accounts, that one account that you would have is set up, you only spent like an hour or two setting it up, and if that's all you had, two accounts, both of which had the same kind of couple hours you put into it, I have seen will actually get you better results than the one account. Now again, Unless if it's not different entities, it's still against the rules. So you have to make your own judgment call there. I will admit you to that. But if you actually do want to set up the ads the right way, you're better off with one, assuming you do it the right way and you're not just half approaching it and just saying, oh, I've got enough, I don't really care. As long as it makes a little bit, I don't care. So the two accounts can do better than one if you only spend bare minimum attention to one or both, both accounts there, as well as the one that you'd be running. So basically, you have not very much time spent on it, and then you did another account and you added to that, and it was not set up that well. Those two accounts, again, will probably do better than the one that you started out with. That was, really just between bad and mediocre. What I've done is I actually ran some numbers here from a campaign that I ran in the testing space that tests for like airborne VOCs. They do it for businesses. They do it for home users. They check for mold, and they take samples. They send it into a lab. It's a business that basically does that. And so results from the testing space. So what I looked at, so with that, we actually did what I told you here, where we took the newest account, rebuilt it, and then went through the process of merging, which basically it's not really a merge. It's just taking the new account, doing it the right way to where it's for sure better than anything else in our market, and then just retiring the old account. Before, with the two accounts that this person had, so basically they wanted to work with me, and they had the two accounts. I recommended that they do just what I said here, because I know that works better to do it the right way on one account, because you're going to make more money that way, both bulk profit and ROI wise. They were getting 60 leads a month between the two accounts when we started. After, on a little bit less money than what they were spending to get the 60, I was already getting 110 leads a month on just one account that was done the right way. People don't realize I have a lot of people that come to me and say, Corey, your fees are high. I don't know if it makes sense for my small business. For a local company, and again, this stuff will apply to any business, not just local, but for a local company, for sure, but it's similar in the national context or e-commerce businesses as well, even, but with a local company in like 90 to 180 days, I could take account and make it, on the same ad money, make 2 to 5 times as many leads as it had before, doing all the things that I normally talk about on my videos, versus where it is now, where the average person spends a couple hours setting it up and that's it. So the old thing of being able to take two accounts that are producing 60 leads a month and then having one that produces 110 leads a month because it gets higher click-through rate. That higher click-through rate now means we're paying less per click. The one account then ends up with 110 leads and on less money is actually very common. It's just just want you to know how much of the difference, the actual how you set up the ads matters. It matters. Basically, unless you spend less than $1,000 a month, you should be doing all the stuff I talk about on the videos, because you're going to make 2 to 5 times as much money. That's just, and for e-commerce and all the rest of it, it's the same way. It takes longer for e-commerce for that 2 to 5x return to come in. For a local company, it's again 90 to 180 days. Basically tops, you already got in that return. For national services, it's a little, a lot of times 60 to 180 days too as well, by the way. But so the one all-star account is much, much better, as you can see by the results here, than two, let's just say crappy accounts or so-so accounts running next to each other. If the two accounts, again, one, we had a strategy to do one cheaper, one less expensive. One was, testing $50 a month, and the other one doesn't say that, but it says, government approved testing in, whatever. That could have been an approach we used, but they didn't have that, just differentiation between the two companies, the one of which they just acquired, which is how they had it set up the way that they had originally with two accounts. So I took the approach of consolidation. I also have done the two accounts, both where somebody had two accounts, and then I made them differentiate, and that differentiated account actually made more money overall than just having two that basically competed directly against each other. I've had that. I also convinced somebody to set up a second business. They were like, Corey, how do we make more money? Set up a second business that you own, cater to this other segment of the market, and I was able to take the two accounts and make more money than they could make with the one that was kind of getting plateaued off in terms of what else we could do with the account as well. And again, that's not illegal in terms of Google's TOS or in an illegal context, you can do that. It just has to be a whole separate entity and business. And of course, to make it work, it has to be doing two different things, catering to two different segments of your market. So hopefully that makes sense kind of overall. Do you want to use more than one PPC account? What are the differences? How to actually execute on this? If you have the two to consolidate, or if you want to roll out two, how to actually do that with two different offers of what you're doing and to be actually compliant so you aren't risking. I've seen people like in the locksmith space where they had two accounts. Google found out, boom, both accounts are gone. You don't want to be that person. And Google can track, just to let you know up front, IP addresses, cards. They can, based upon the cards, they got ways. I can't even list all the ways that they have to see if you're double serving. In certain markets like locksmiths, they're looking really, really, really hard. So if you are trying to do that in a space like that, just forget about it. You're not going to get away with it. In some markets where nobody's really pulling that, and you're probably the first and only one that ever will try to get away with two accounts, you may get away with it. But for the most part, you still can't just be lazy about it. You actually have to make it look like a new company, even if it's not. New bank account, new debit card. The business service looks like it's owned by somebody else. That new somebody else is on the bank card, so on and so forth. They at least go to that level with it. Otherwise, Google just picks up on it. Now, I'm not trying to, Google, don't kill me here, to tell people how to get away with this, but I'm just this is more so, don't even try. Just do it the legit way that you're supposed to do it, because you're going to get killed. Both your accounts are going to get killed, and good luck trying to get a new account back. Whereas you were making, $500,000 a year before on your one account, you got greedy, tried to make $1 million with two accounts, and now you have zero. Don't get lazy with doing two accounts if you're going to do it, basically. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I have a lot of other videos on this channel just like this that goes over different PPC strategies. You should check those out. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog that talks about step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns that make money that we guarantee for our clients. You could, if you would prefer information on how to build campaigns, you can find it there. If you have any questions about running more than one account, or if you should do that or whatever, leave me a comment down below. I pretty much have seen it all already by this point. So, and I get back to everybody that leaves me a comment on this channel. Otherwise, hopefully this inspired you to either do something new or change what you're doing and the mindset of what you thought you were going to do, so that you stay away from trouble with Google, and also you have the opportunity to make more money, have it actually work.